how customers discover new brands or trends or whatever the motivation is to update their wardrobe, that's changed tremendously.
I was in a fight for my life. Opportunity is so huge.
All right, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about something I think everyone in this room has to deal with, which is balance. And here you are now running this, what are we, $15 billion or so enterprise with the number of thousands of employees. How do you build balance into your own schedule, and what are the things that you do to make sure that you're getting that balance? I did a lousy job of it, by the way, when I was running a company.
Yeah, I don't know. There is an advantage of working with a family. I mean, you get, there's three of us. We can have more of an impact. We can be more places, and a lot of times, externally and internally, there's plenty of employees we have. They know our last name's Nordstrom, and they don't know the first name, and they really don't care either. It's someone named Nordstrom's visiting our store today, and it was a big deal, and that's great. It's we can have spread out and have a little more of an impact. I don't know. I will say I'm very fortunate to have as an incredible mom and dad, and my dad, who's been my professional and personal hero for my whole life, and he's family, very important. And I certainly remember my dad. He worked 6 days a week. He would go in the office on Saturdays, and I remember him showing up Saturday afternoon, my football game or basketball game. He'd have his raincoat on and his suit and tie on, and but he'd be there, and so I try to do that. One of the ways I have my daughter here today, so she lives here. I bring her to things like this. This is how I get my balance. The real core of our business, while I'd like to think what we sell are necessities, they're really not. Most customers come to us and they're looking for something new. They don't know exactly what that is. And so that journey of discovery, how customers discover new brands or trends or whatever the motivation is to update their wardrobe, that's changed tremendously. To be where the customer wants us to be has required us to diversify our business. We got into e-commerce early, but it's still. I mean, we're a store business, and that's just can't be the case anymore. So we've had to add more ways of serving customers, which has made our business a little more complex. And but I will say it's made it a lot more interesting. It's I've been doing this all my life, and I spent a lot of years on a shoe stool selling women's shoes, and I wouldn't say I was the best at it either. I wasn't horrible. I wasn't the worst, but I wasn't the best, and I had to work really hard at it to be kind of above average. But to have new ways of serving customers keeps it interesting. Part of what we felt was slowing our company down is it wasn't that we weren't trying to change. It's like we tried to change too much all at once. I think we had 20 different companies in the company, and there was a lack of focus. And we got with some of our top people, and one of them was this system change, which you do these system changes, they're really painful to do, and they're expensive. And it was an easy thing to go, boy, let's go back, how the good old days. And we said, boy, we're going to need to say no to a lot of things, be very focused. But that's the one we need to put all our chips on that one and get on one platform. And that helped. But it required saying no to a lot of other things. As I was coming up, we really had one path. I mean, you start on the selling floor, you sell, you're a department manager, maybe you become a store manager, and that was, then maybe you go to HR, you go to marketing, but it's we all have the same experiences, and there's much more specialty today, and we don't have computer engineers who we pull off the shoe floor. thank God. But there is a common thread of, your reputation as an employer is just so important. And, you take, we're in Seattle, Amazon's in Seattle, Microsoft is there. There's a lot of competition for tech talent. And Amazon and Microsoft, Starbucks, Costco, all these great companies, and they are terrific companies. But we need to have our own story and be able to compete, just as we compete with customers, compete for people who are making career choices. And it is different today. There's areas where people are not looking to make 20-year commitments to a single employer, where they've are maybe looking for their next stage. And I find when I talk to them, when I'm interviewing people or people who are new joining our company, they talk about culture. They talk about corporate social responsibility. They do online research. They go to sites like Glass Ceiling that employees are kind of unfiltered on there, and so those things are super important. And we certainly try to have very clear stories. Like one of the things we have in employee entrances of all our stores is we have examples of career paths. So we would take Jennifer and say, boy, here's someone who's got this super cool designer merchandising job that you may want and has this glamorous life going to Paris and things. And here's how she started. Here's the steps she went through. And so we try to talk a lot about that. We use one of the terms of, talk about omni-channel, that we can't have a strategy of channel coercion, of trying to coerce customers into a channel that works best for us. We have to figure out how can we leverage channels customers want to be at to make the whole thing work. And I think there could be ways that both the rental and the consignment business could be synergistic to what we do.
Could be. I mean, I use an example. I have friends who will buy go to the Real. They'll buy a Chanel handbag at $5,000. They know they can get $3,000 for the resale on it. They're now thinking this is a $2,000 cost. Yeah. So it actually may be building the business.
Yeah, it makes it, I totally agree. It makes that full price purchase easier. Yeah. It's less of a hurdle to get over it. They know they can get something on the back end. And so I think it's something we have to understand. Like, we know off-price business for us is very synergistic to our full-price business. Off-price is where we acquire more new customers than any other part of our business, and 1/3 of those customers each year that are new to off-price become full-price customers. There is this very synergistic channel customer acquisition. Is that in rental? Is that in consignment? Is there a similar dynamic there? I don't know. But I think it's something we have to be open to.
Starting to experiment in the space. You're starting to see it happen. I'd be surprised that, especially with the millennial or the Gen Z customer, who is much more used to shared, they don't need to own. A lot of them aren't getting driver's license. They're happy to go in Uber. They're thinking differently about clothing, and you may find that a Rent the Runway may be the entree to your, the off-fifth version, or the rack version, my off-fifth version, but the rack version to the full line. I don't know, but I clearly think that these things can't be ignored, and by the way, they're now becoming unicorns because they're getting $1 billion+ valuations.
Yeah, I've noticed that.